Hi all, good morning. The next topic is design concepts, which includes the subtopics design with context of software engineering, design process, design concepts, and design model. First of all, the introduction part. Software design encompasses the set of principles, concepts, and practices that lead to the development of a high quality system or product. The goal of software design is to produce model or representation that exhibits quality, commodity, which means useful or valuable things, and delight, means great pleasure, software design. Software design is more creative than analysis and it's also helpful for problem solving activity. First of all, initial requirements taken from user, then gather data on user requirement, then analyze requirement data, then after that high level design, then after designing, refine and document the design. This is the way the software is designing. First of all, initial requirements taken from the user and gather those requirements and analyze requirement data, then high level design, then refine and document the design. At each steps, we have to validate the requirements, validate the design against the requirement, and obtain answer to requirement questions. First, design within the context of software engineering. Software design is the last software engineering action within the modeling activity and sets the stage for construction phase. Means code generation and testing. അതായത് സോഫ്റ്റ്വെയർ ഡിസൈൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ആക്ട് ആസ് എ സ്റ്റേജ് ഓർ ബ്രിഡ്ജ് ഡ്യൂറിങ് സോഫ്റ്റ്വെയർ എഞ്ചിനീയറിംഗ്. അത് മീൻസ് ലാസ്റ്റ് സോഫ്റ്റ്വെയർ എഞ്ചിനീയർ, അതായത് റിക്വയർമെന്റ് മോഡലിംഗും അനലൈസ് മോഡലിംഗ് ആണ് ആ ലാസ്റ്റ് സോഫ്റ്റ്വെയർ എഞ്ചിനീയറിംഗ് വരുന്നത്. After completion of software designing, it produce one resultant product that is useful to the construction phase for code generation and testing. Okay. Then the requirements model having four basic elements which feed the design task to implement software design: scenario based, class based, flow oriented, and behavioral element. This is the relationship between analysis model element and the design model. Design model basically having four design model from bottom to top approach. The first one is data or class design and architectural design, interface design, and the next is component level design. The data or class design transforms class model into design model, which contains realization and the requisite data structure required to implement the software. Next, the architectural design. It defines the relationship between major structural elements of the software. And the interface design describes how the software communicate with the systems that interoperate with it and with humans who use it. Means communication between system and the user. This is the interface design. And the last design is component level design. It transforms, component level design transforms structural element of the software architecture into procedural description of software component. These scenario-based elements contain use case test, use case diagram, activity diagram, streamline diagrams. Providing input to the to implement, providing input to implement the interface design. Okay, അതാണ് ഇവിടെ കാണിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നത്. Then next, flow oriented elements. Sorry, class based elements here, which provides input to the three different model. First one is component level and the next is architectural, and also it provide input to the data or class design, and the next is behavior element. It also provide input to the two type of design model. First one is component level design and interface design. അതായത് ബിഹേവിയർ എലമെന്റ് രണ്ട് ഡിസൈൻ മോഡലിന്റെ ഇൻപുട്ട് ആയിട്ടാണ് പ്രൊവൈഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. ഫസ്റ്റ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് കോമ്പണന്റ് ലെവൽ ഡിസൈൻ ആൻഡ് സെക്കൻഡ് വൺ ഈസ് ഇന്റർഫേസ് ലെവൽ ഡിസൈൻ. സിനാരിയോ ബേസ്ഡ് എലമെന്റ് ആണെങ്കിൽ അത് ഇൻപുട്ട് പ്രൊവൈഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് ഇന്റർഫേസ് ഡിസൈന് മാത്രമാണ്. ക്ലാസ് ബേസ്ഡ് എലമെന്റ് ആണെങ്കിൽ 3 ഡിസൈൻ മോഡലിന് ഇൻപുട്ട് ആയിട്ട് പ്രൊവൈഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. ഫസ്റ്റ് ഈസ് കോമ്പണന്റ് ലെവൽ ഡിസൈനിന് ഇൻപുട്ട് പ്രൊവൈഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്, ദെൻ ആർക്കിടെക്ചർ ഡിസൈൻ ആൻഡ് ഡാറ്റ ഓർ ക്ലാസ് ഡിസൈൻ. ഓക്കെ. Finally, the importance of software design can be stated with a single word, which is quality. At finally, we are using quality requirement. We are producing some quality software design. It is used to generate some result in quality product for the purpose of next construction of coding, means implementation of coding. And the next one is design process. Software design is an iterative process through which requirements are translated into a blueprint for constructing the software. Design is represented at a high level of abstraction, and software quality guidelines and attributes. There are 3 characteristics. First of all, the design must implement all the explicit requirement contained in the requirement model, and the design must be readable, understandable guide for those who generate code. And the design should provide a complete picture of the software, addressing the data, functional and behavioral domains from an implementation perspective. And these are the guidelines. The first is a design should exhibit an architecture that has been created using recognizable architectural style or pattern and is composed of components that exhibit good design characteristics and can be implemented in an evolutionary fashion and thereby facilitating implementation and testing. And a design should be modular, that is, the software should be logically partitioned into elements or subsystems. And a design, third guideline is a design should contain distinct representation of data, architecture, interface, and component. And a design should lead to data structure that are appropriate for the classes to be implemented and are drawn from recognizable data pattern. And also it should lead to components that exhibit independent functional characteristics and lead to interface that reduce the complexity of connection between component and with the external environment. And a design should be derived using a repeatable method that is driven by information obtained during software requirement analysis. And a design should be derived using a repeatable method that is driven by information obtained during software requirement analysis. And a design should be represented using a notation that effectively communicate its meaning. These are the guidelines. And next is quality attributes. There are 5 basic quality attributes. FURPS means F means functionality, U means usability, R means reliability, P means performance, and the last one is supportability. Functionality involving the feature set and capabilities of the program and security of overall system. And usability is assessed by considering human factor, overall aesthetics, consistency, and documentation. And in reliability, it is evaluated by measuring the frequency, severity of failure, and the accuracy of output result, and mean time to failure, the ability to recover from failure, and the predictability of the program. And in performance, it is measured using processing speed, response time, resource consumption, throughput, and efficiency. And the last is supportability. It combines extensibility, adaptability, and serviceability. These 3 attributes represent a more common term, maintainability. And in addition, testability, compatibility, configurability. Next is design concept. In design concept, the first topic is abstraction, and the second architecture, then pattern, then separation of concern, modularity, information hiding, functional independence, refinement, aspects, refactoring, then object oriented design concept and design classes. These are the design concepts. Abstraction is the we are we all know that it's the act of representing essential features without including the background details or explanation. Many level of abstraction can be posed. High level of abstraction, lower level of abstraction, and procedural abstraction is there, and data abstraction. Procedural abstraction means sequence of instructions. It refers to a sequence of instruction. And data abstraction is collection of data that describes a data object. Okay, abstraction means act of representing only essential features without including the background knowledge, background detail or explanation. Next is architecture. It describes overall structure of the system. Overall structure of the software. Every architecture has sets of properties and different models. And the properties are structural properties, extra functional properties, and families of related systems. Architecture is the structure or organization of a program components, the manner in which these components interact, and the structure of data that are used by the components. The first property is structural properties. It defines the component of a system. For example, modules, objects, filters, and the manner in which those components are packaged and interact with one another. And in extra functional properties address how the design architecture achieves requirements for performance, capacity, reliability, security, adaptability, and other system characteristics. Architectural design description. Okay, then the third one is families of related system. The design should have ability to reuse the architecture building blocks. And if the architecture design can be represented using one or more of a number of different models, structural model, framework model, dynamic model, process model, and functional model. Structural model represent architecture as an organized collection of a program component. And framework model increase the level of design abstraction by attempting to identify repeatable architectural design framework that are encountered in similar type of application. Dynamic model address the behavioral aspect of the program architecture, indicating how the structure or system configuration may change as a function of external events. And process model focus on the design of the business or technical process that the system must accommodate. And in functional model, it can be used to represent the functional hierarchy of a system. Next is pattern. It's a proven solution to a problem. And separation of a concern, subdividing the complex problem into small pieces, means optimizing the complexity of a problem. And next is modularity. In modularity, software is divided into separately named and addressable components, sometimes called module. Here in x-axis, number of modules are there, and y-axis, cost or effort. Number of modules increases and cost or effort reduces. At minimum number of modules, region of minimum cost M. And if we are producing more number of modules, so the cost also increases. So if we have to maintain minimum module to reduce the complexity of problem, and it automatically decrease cost or effort. Next is information hiding. characterized by design decisions that hides from all other. Information contained within a module is inaccessible to other modules. Then functional independence. Every component or module is do the task without depend on other modules. Means single-minded function. Two qualitative criteria is there, cohesion and coupling. Cohesion means perform a single task, requiring little interaction with other component in other part of a program. And coupling means depend on the interface, കോംപ്ലക്സിറ്റി ബിറ്റ്വീൻ മോഡ്യൂൾസ്. അതായത് രണ്ടോ അതിൽ കൂടുതലോ മോഡ്യൂൾസിനെ ഡിപ്പെൻഡ് ചെയ്യും. വിച്ച് മീൻസ് ഇന്റർകണക്ഷൻ among modules in a software structure. Next is refinement. This is stepwise refinement is a top-down design strategy. It's actually a process of elaboration. Means detailed information or explanation of every component. Then aspects means characteristics of the system. Then refactoring is a process of changing a software system in such a way that it does not alter the external behavior of the code, yet it improves the internal structure. And the next is object-oriented design concept such as class, object, inheritance, message, polymorphism and all. And the last concept is design classes. The analysis model defines a set of analysis classes. 5 different type of design classes there. First is user interface class, then business domain classes, then process classes, persistent class, and system classes. User interface class define all abstraction that are necessary for human-computer interaction and often implement the HCI in the context of metaphor. And business domain class identify the attribute and services that are required to implement some element of the business domain that was defined by one or more analysis class. And process class implement lower level business abstraction required to fully manage the business domain class. And persisting class represent data store, for example, a database that will persist beyond the execution of the software. And system class implements software management and control function that enable the system to operate and communicate within its computing environment and with the outside world. And the last session is design model. Design model can be viewed in 2 different dimensions, process dimension and abstraction dimension. The process dimension indicates the evolution of the design model, and abstraction dimension represents the level of details as each element of the analysis model. And the design model has major elements: data design elements, architecture design element, interface design element, component level design element, and deployment level design elements. However, the model element indicated along the horizontal axis are not always developed in a sequential fashion. In most cases, preliminary architecture design sets the stage and is followed by interface design and component level design, which often occur in parallel. The data design elements, sometimes referred to as data architecturing. It creates a model of data and information that is represented at a high level of abstraction. And this data model is then refined into progressively more implementation specific representation that can be processed by the computer-based system. And the structure of data has always been an important part of the software design. At the program component level, the design of data structure and the associated algorithm required to manipulate them is essential to the creation of a high quality application. And architectural design elements. Architecture design for software is the equivalent to the floor plan of a house. The floor plan depicts the overall layout of the room, the size, shape, and relationship to one another. and the doors and windows that allow movement into and out of the room. And the floor plan gives us an overall view of the house. Architecture design element give us an overall view of the software. The architecture model is derived from three sources. Information about the application domain for the software to be built, and specific requirement model element such as use cases or analysis classes, and the relationship and collaboration for the problem at hand. And the third is the availability of architecture style and pattern. And in interface design element, the interface design for software is analogous to a set of detailed drawings for the door, window, and external utilities of a house. And in essence, the detailed drawing for the door, window, and external utilities tell us how things and information flow into and out of the house and within the rooms that are part of the floor plan. And the interface design element for software depict information flow into and out of a system and how it communicated among the component defined as a part of architecture. And in component level design element, the component level design for a software is equivalent to a set of detailed drawing for each room in a house. These drawings depict wiring, plumbing within each room, and the location of electrical and wall switches, etc. The closets and every other details associated with the room. Means for full software fully describe the internal detail of each software component. And the last is deployment level design element. It indicates how software functionality and subsystem will be allocated within the physical computing environment that will support the software. For example, the element of the safe home product are configured to operate within three primary computing environments: a home-based PC, safe home, control panel, and server hosted at CPI Corp. Means providing internet-based access to the system. Then next topic എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് template of a design document as per IEEE standard for information technology system design software design description. അതായത് എങ്ങനെയാണ് അതിൻ്റെ ടെംപ്ലേറ്റ് എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. അത് ജസ്റ്റ് അങ്ങ് കണ്ടൻസ് ആണ്, ഓവർവ്യൂ ഉണ്ടാവും. ദെൻ ഓവർവ്യൂ മീൻസ് അതിൻ്റെ സ്കോപ്പ്, പർപ്പസ്, ഇൻറ്റൻറ്റഡ് ഓഡിയൻസ്, പെർഫോമൻസ്, ദെൻ ഡെഫിനിഷൻ, അങ്ങനെ ഓരോ കണ്ടൻസും കാര്യങ്ങളും അതിലുള്ളത്. അതായത് ഒരു ഡിസൈൻ ഡോക്യുമെന്റ് ടെംപ്ലേറ്റ് എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഉള്ളത് എന്നുള്ള ഒരു ടോപ്പിക് മീൻസ് അതിൻ്റെ പാർട്ടാണ് ഇതിൽ പറയുന്നത്, ഏതൊക്കെ ഉണ്ട് എന്നുള്ളത്. ഡിസൈൻ ഡിസ്ക്രിപ്ഷൻ ഇൻഫോർമേഷൻ കണ്ടന്റ് ഉണ്ടാവും. ദെൻ ഡിസൈൻ വ്യൂ പോയിന്റ്സ് ഉണ്ടാവും. ദെൻ അതിൻ്റെ ബിബ്ലിയോഗ്രഫി, അതൊക്കെ കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെയാണ് ഇൻക്ലൂഡ് ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്നത് ആ ടെംപ്ലേറ്റ്സിൽ. ഓക്കെ, താങ്ക് യു.